You know that whole story about how to become a champion? You have to come from a tough background? That poverty and hardship make you hungry enough to succeed? Well, this book I read basically says that's probably a myth, and the author has the data to prove it. Okay, so the author starts the book by talking about this exact idea. The collective wisdom that says growing up in tough conditions, like being the kid of a single teenage mom, gives you the drive to make it in a super competitive sport. He even mentions this basketball coach from Philly who said, "Rich kids play for fun, but for poorer kids, basketball is a matter of life and death." And the ultimate example is LeBron James, right? Grew up in total poverty with a single mom. It makes perfect sense on the surface. But then the author asks, is this collective wisdom actually correct? So he decided to ignore the stories and just dig into the data. And this is where it gets really interesting. So the first thing the author looked at was the players' birthplaces. He analyzed how many players born in the 1980s came from different states. And he found that a black kid born in a wealthy state has literally double the chance of making it to the NBA compared to a kid from a poor state. For white kids, being born in a rich state meant a 60% better chance. That's the first piece of evidence that something is off with the hungry athlete story. But he didn't stop there. He then looked into their family backgrounds. The author did a study on 100 African American players and found that the odds of an NBA superstar being born to a single teenage mother were 30% lower than for the average person. His conclusion from that? Even the family status of the best players shows that an easier childhood leads to more success. Okay, clue number 3 the author presents is maybe the weirdest one. Their first names. He brings up this research by 2 economists that shows family background can be estimated by a kid's name. Basically, families in poorer communities tend to choose more unique names, while middle-class families choose more common ones. So the author checked the names of NBA players. And guess what? Their names overwhelmingly fit the pattern of middle-class families, not poorer ones. So now the author has these 3 different pieces of evidence: birthplace, family, and names. And they all point to the same conclusion. A better socioeconomic background gives you a better chance to succeed. The whole idea that poverty is an advantage is, according to his data, a complete mistake. Alright, so the next big question the author tackles is why? Why does a more stable childhood help so much? He gives 2 main reasons. The first one is super simple: height. He shows how better health and nutrition during childhood, which are more common in wealthier families, lead to taller adults. And the numbers he presents are crazy. He calculates that every 5 centimeters, or about 2 inches for all my American friends watching, doubles a person's chance of making it to the NBA. The second reason he gives is social skills. The author points to data from economists showing that 2-parent middle-class families tend to raise kids who are more disciplined, persistent, and better at planning. To show how important this is, he tells the story of this player, Doug Wren. The guy was one of the most talented players of the 90s, but he grew up in a really tough environment. He was constantly getting into trouble, fighting with coaches and teammates, and eventually got kicked off multiple teams. All that talent went to waste because he lacked those social skills. And then, the author contrasts him with Michael Jordan. Apparently, Jordan was no angel as a kid either. He even got suspended for fighting. But he had a stable, middle-class family that kept him on the right path. His dad worked at General Electric, and his mom worked at a bank. The author even includes this quote from Jordan's Hall of Fame speech, where he says, "All of this was possible thanks to my father and mother." The author's point is that Jordan's family provided the structure his talent needed to flourish. So, the author's final conclusion in the book is that growing up in a situation where basketball is a matter of life and death is actually no advantage at all. The data, and stories like Doug Wren's, show that incredible talent isn't enough. It needs a stable environment to thrive. That classic underdog story we all love to hear? According to the author, it's the exception, not the rule. Anyway, I thought that was fascinating. It totally changed how I look at things. What do you guys think? Does this change your perspective too? Let me know down in the comments. See you in the next one.